exciting.
Hey guys, this is Andy, and on today's episode of Rust Wars, we are going to talk about pulling and repairing this super rusty, crusty gas tank out of my 1800 ES. So first off, as you might guess, I have all that wooden scaffolding and framing, and these filters here. These are for the sandblast tent that I'm making, and so we're going to talk about that next time. Today we are going to talk about this gas tank. I'm going to break this video up into a number of sections. 1, pulling the tank. 2, the initial disassembly and removing the fuel level sender, and basically taking the level sender apart and rebuilding this guy. Then 3, doing the initial cleaning and getting the absolute ton of dried up tar and resin and just various residue from gas sitting in here for 30 years and drying to a cake, and tar and all sorts of other junk. So 3, initial cleaning, and there'll be some cool footage of stuff sloshing around and nasty stuff sloshing out. Then let's see, 4, doing once the tank is clean, doing a deeper dive, and then going over a couple special tools that I had to make to pull the drain plug out, and then taking a look at what I found inside of it, which was this copper brass pipe, which was just literally clanging around inside the tank, and I'll explain why this, why I found it this way, and why this probably led to the car sitting for 30 years. And 4, I'll cover disassembly of the tank, some of the special tools I had to make for pulling out these brass plugs, and finally my plans for addressing all these problems. And let's just take a real quick peek at the tank before we dive in. We can see that there is this giant massive gash that is around 1.5 inches or so deep there in the front, and then they also ran over something where the drain plug is, and that very likely led to the inlet pipe being completely moshed up in the tip. And yeah, so anyway, that's the intro. So let's get to how we pull this thing. So pulling the tank is actually super easy. Basically on the ES you do need to pull the trunk floor, just those wood screws that attach the plywood thing to that hinge, and the little holdy up dealywag, pull those, comes out, no biggie. Then there are a series of self-tapping sheet metal screws around the perimeter. Pull all those out. Then obviously pull the vent hose. There's a couple vacuum lines that go there, and I think one there, probably one underneath, I forget. Then there's the inlet dealywag, which just goes there. Pull this off. Mine was really pliable and perfect shape, so it came off super easy. And then there's this rubber donut that held in there, and then just pull. I actually just left that in and pull this off, and then you have to do some I guess sort of finagling of the tank, where lift up this end and then push that down until it sort of cantilevers out of there, the inlet neck, and that comes out of here. Tank drops down. Super easy. Now let's get to the next more complex bits. So here is the cleaned and disassembled fuel level sender. When I started with this thing, this was an unholy mess of complete concreted mess where it was obviously, together, and it was completely locked up and frozen shut. And this was all together. This was just this mass of concretions and goo, and it was just horrible. So went through a number of steps in getting it to this point. So step one was getting all of the dried up fuel, resin, and tar, and all the sort of carbon-based junk off that. Acids won't touch that. You need a strong base. So I soak this in a this is just the degreaser from Harbor Freight. I think it's basically it's basically sodium hydroxide and various other surfactants and emulsifiers and other really cleaning agents. So step one, soak, when you pull out one of these, soak it in a heavy degreaser for a while until all of the visible junk off the top comes off. And then that got it to the point where I could actually see. Then it had this little cover that was held on there by these little tabs, and it was originally on there like so. I had to soak this for overnight until I could even see these tabs there to get all that initial sludge off. So once I got it to there, I could see it had these tabs. I was able to brush off some of that sludge and get a little screwdriver and pry these tabs off, and then super carefully pry this little cover off. Then that exposed the inner mechanism, which is this wiper arm. So that went through this hole like so, and yeah, it just fits in there like so, and it spun in that little spindly sleeve thingy. This was again, this was completely locked up with a mixture of corrosion and rust and junk in there. So once I got the cover off, I then I just wanted to get all of the rust off of this that I could find. Now, if you notice, this is it's zinc coated. So I wanted to avoid stripping the zinc off. Acids will strip zinc off, so that's why I chose a chelator approach. And I soak this in Rust 911, which is an iron chelator. I'm not 100% sure what its chemical composition is, but it's not an acid, it's a chelator. And I soaked that in Rust 911 for, I don't know, 5-6 hours, and then that managed to loosen enough of the rust that I could get in here with a brass brush and start wiping the rust off, and then very slowly working this loose. And I was finally able to super carefully wiggle this loose and get that to pop out of there, because this was just super tight. And then that came through, and then I soaked this a little more, and then with just a brush tried to get as much of the rust and junk out from beside it. And we can see now, this is this wire, resistance wire round assembly. This is a nichrome resistance wire where you have the wiper go across there like so, and it sends a different resistance based on its angle. This is held on there by these two copper rivets, and there's still a little bit of junk underneath here, and I still might end up drilling out these copper rivets so I can clean underneath here, or maybe not 100% sure what I want to do. But so one issue that's with this is we can see if I can angle it there. Yeah. the wiper is actually so worn that it wore a hole through this little contact, and I just can't really get a, yeah, there it is. Yeah, you can see there's an actual hole. There's a hole worn through the contact assembly. That's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be just a bump. This is really thin stainless. This is like 15,000 stainless. There's really no way I can weld that shut, because it would, this is obviously heat treated. It has a certain temper in there, so if I heat this, it'll lose its hardness, and I don't know how hard this is supposed to be. So I think the approach I'm going to take with this is, I have quite a bit of silicon bronze welding wire. I think what I'll do is I'll basically make a rivet on the lathe out of this silicon bronze wire, turn that down so that I can put one end through there, make a tiny little rivet, and then peen both ends down so that I'll have a silicon bronze point contacty thingy there. I think that'll work pretty well, because silicon bronze is a really good bearing material, and it should probably be able to wipe across this nichrome wire reasonably well without wearing out super fast. And then, yeah, once I basically get this all, this does need a little bit more cleaning. Oh yeah, I spent quite a bit of time with a brass brush cleaning all the crud off of this and getting it to this point, so looking pretty good. Oh, weird thing. There is gas in this. I have probably from 50 years some odd of sitting, certain amount of gas just sort of seeped through the float into here, and there's a tiny bit of gas in there. Funny. Anyway, so need a little bit more cleaning, and then I will get this guy assembled back together, and that's the guts of a Smith's fuel level sender. Okay, so now let's take a look at part 3, doing the initial cleaning of the tank. Part 3, cleaning the tank. So when I first pulled this tank out, I pulled out the fuel sender and looked down there with a borescope. Unfortunately, I didn't take any pre-pictures. I should have, but I didn't. But basically, looking down there, I could see there was like a good 1/4 inch or so of this black, dried up tar and gunk from fuel sitting in there for so long, and similarly down there. So when we examine these tanks that have sat a long time, there's 2 kinds of things we have to remove. The top layer is going to be tar, resin, gas residue, sludge, dirt, and just all the other accumulated junk from 30 years of gas sitting in there and drying out, and this was left over, and it was this black caked on tar. It's horrible stuff. We have to get that off first before we can even think about rust. The cleaners that remove tar, that dissolve tar, do not affect rust, and vice versa. So, to get at the tar, we need a really strong base. What I did was I filled this tank up with a couple, 3 or 4 gallons of really hot sodium hydroxide, aka lye, and some of this degreaser, which is also a strong base degreaser. That allowed me to dislodge and get rid of all of the tar so I could actually see what's going on underneath. But before I could get this in there, we need a way to seal this tank up. So what I did was I made a rubber gasket to fill that, and then I made this aluminum plate to cover that up, and I might show some footage of me drilling this out, but yeah, so that just screwed on there with these same holes. I had a rubber cap to plug up the fuel inlet, and then various rubber plugs to plug that up, and then I let the cleaning solution I just manually slosh that around, and we're going to take a look at it here in a second, and we're going to see the initial amount of sludge that came out of here. It's pretty impressive. So I've had this thing sitting out here for I don't know, some like 3 or 4 hours or so, sloshing it around in different orientations, and I had this sitting all night long with just vertically like this on the bottom. So let's go ahead and drain this thing out right now and take a look at what I'm getting out of here, and I'm sure this will take many more sessions to get all of this sludge out of here. Loosen this up first. Okay. Exciting. Okay. Yeah, that's a nasty sludge, and good thing I have the hose here. So, alright. Oh, it actually looks a lot better inside. Yeah, I'm wearing layers of gloves here. So, clean this up here. I'm gonna pop the this thing off, and then so we can just see in here. Try and see if I can get the camera over there. Yeah, that is, well, it's better. I mean, you can almost see metal now. It's just a lot of black sludge. Well, yeah, it's like this brown sludge. So let's see if this does anything. Nope, camera doesn't see anything. Well, yeah, you can sort of see something. Okay, so that's looking in there. Yeah, you really can't see a whole lot of anything without the bore scope in here. So let's see about cleaning this out with a hose. Alright, that's the rinse, so it's yeah, it's pretty bad stuff. And the first round, so it's just brown sludge. Okay. So, oh my God, that stinks. All right, so. All right, with the tank cleaned, I had to make a tool to take out this brass drain plug. And really all this is it's a piece of half-inch steel that I milled the end of it down to fit this 11 millimeter plug. So it is 11 millimeter, which is just under half inch, so it fits in there snug. Now this was really, and this is what it was like pulling this plug. Huh. Okay, there we go. So that moved. All right, that moved. Okay, we got crusties in there. So there is the plug. Now inside, oh boy, what do I have in there? I have something in there. Oh crap. Yeah. There's something loose, some sort of a thing in there. I bet. Okay, so got the plug out, and this is what I found inside of the tank, basically just sort of flapping around there. And this is the fuel pickup inlet, which sort of goes right like inside the tank, and this was sort of swaged or soldered onto this brass plug there, and it was just held at one end, and it had a little strainer dealywag on this tip. And let's take a closer look at what's going on here. This is how I pulled it out. This was badly damaged, the tip of it, and that is presumably from somebody driving over something big, and we can see this area is bashed in about, oh, good half inch or so. So that's probably how it got that damage there. So on the end, all of these are called stress fractures. We see these sort of fractures from a piece of metal sitting there and vibrating over a long period of time. So this is classic metal fatigue fracture. So this is basically just a bad design of having it just held in there, and copper is very crack prone over time. So anyway, I need to make a new one of those. Oh yeah, and then this is the big damage thing here. Let's take a closer look at that. So here's this front. So we can see it's a good 1.5 inches or so bash inwards. I don't know what they hit, but it was some big. So how am I going to address these problems? Well, the sort of approach I'm thinking about for this is it's easy enough for me to bend another one of these. So this is 12 millimeter, and I can use 1/2-inch aluminum tubing that I already have a bunch that I made the intercooler for my compressor here. So these are all lines that I bent for that. So pretty easy to bend that. Now, what I think I'm going to do is, this is, it's like, I think it's a 1/2-inch NPT inlet. So I think what I'm going to do is try and bore this all the way through and then get a compression fitting that I can screw in there, where I can basically put the compression fitting over the hose and feed that into here, down to there, and then get a new one of these strainer dealy wax. So I already ordered a 1/2-inch compression to NPT fitting, so I think that should work. Now, the big bash here. My plan for this is I'm going to try using the Unispot tool. So this is it's a spot welder where it spots these little plug deals onto there, and then I can use a slide hammer to try and pull this out while I'm heating that. So we are going to leave repairing this to a future video, and I'm going to go ahead and stop this here because this is already getting really ridiculously long, and it was just me rambling on about a freaking gas tank. So, yeah. All right, well, for those of you who stuck around this long, thanks for watching, and next time I think I'll probably go ahead and do the sandblast tent, which is that, like I said, that scaffolding back there, or I might try and actually do the work on this tank. So we'll see what my next upload's going to be. Thanks, guys. Later.